Venom, Let There Be Carnage is a really great improvement on what I thought was already a very fun and entertaining first film. And it makes me really excited to see what else Sony is going to do in the future. Stay tuned for my thoughts. Hi, my name's Drew and welcome to another review video on my channel. Finally seen the second Venom film, Let There Be Carnage, although it's only been out in Austria for about a week now at this point, but still was very much looking forward to this. Full disclosure, I am a fan of the first film. I thought it wasn't as bad as a lot of people thought it was. While, yes, it wasn't a big cinematic masterpiece, also not with the most magnificent storytelling, I just thought it was a very solid first entry in what you could call Sony's new cinematic universe. Now, what I'll give the very first Venom film is, yes, the villain is very bland and his motivations, etc. are very, very rehashed, I'll call it, from an early 2000s comic book film, for instance. So it was very simplistic in that way. But I really enjoyed the film a lot for the relationship between Eddie Brock and Venom. I thought that really brought it to a different level. That is something that just other comic book films can't deliver. I thought it was really entertaining. Also to see Tom Hardy as just a normal goofball. That's something I really enjoyed. So obviously they spoiled, I'll call it, the second film. Even in the after credits scenes of the first film, we already got to see Woody Harrelson back then in a very amusing wig. They've toned that down a little. It's actually even been addressed by the director Andy Serkis, who said, you know, that the hair is different now, it's supposed to reflect the passage of time. I think they just went, you know, this is too much, we can't have him looking like a clown. And I do feel they have made the correct decision, because his character really is not a clown, I would say. So this is a very interesting entry. It was interesting to see where they would take the story from here. The first film obviously was very much about just establishing Venom and Eddie Brock and these two people I suppose you could call them, these two entities who are meshed together unwillingly and have to learn to work together. So this film, just to address that right from the start, it is better crafted in all sorts of ways. It has also got a very, very short runtime of, I think it's not even 1 hour and 40 minutes. And I think that is a very good choice, because they obviously decided very early on which story they want to tell and really just kept in whatever they felt was necessary to tell that story. But what is that story? Well, we are really looking in detail at the relationship between Eddie Brock and Venom, so it is very clear pretty much from the start that since the events of the first film, Eddie has not allowed Venom to feed on any bad people. So Venom is growing increasingly, hungry. He explains that he needs certain things that you can only get by consuming brains, and he's being fed a lot of chicken, and chocolate seemingly has the same ingredients that he needs, but obviously he is growing more and more weary of them and is really pushing to be allowed to eat bad guys again. And while this is all happening, Eddie Brock is really just focused on trying to get his old life back and just live a normal life, which is obviously very difficult when you've got an alien symbiote in the back of your head constantly talking to you. What happens is they have Woody Harrelson's character, who is Cletus Cassidy. He is in the jail. We already saw that exchange in the first one. But here again, Eddie Brock is called to him to interview him. He's the only person he's going to talk to, apparently. So Cletus Cassidy offers Eddie his life story that should help him boost his career again, in exchange for Eddie Brock releasing publicly some information given to him by Cletus Cassidy, which turns out to be a haiku that is directed at his followers. This doesn't go quite as planned by Cletus Cassidy. I won't spoil what exactly happens, but Eddie somehow gets information on where the remaining bodies are, because Cletus Cassidy is actually a serial killer and it seemingly has a lot of unsolved crimes, or at least where the bodies have not been found, but they have been ascribed to him, and Eddie is able to figure out where these bodies are, and so he just sort of ditches whatever possibilities he would have had to get an interview with Cletus and manages to direct the police to these bodies, and through that way he revives his career. Following that, Cletus Cassidy is put on death row, so he is being sentenced to be executed, and so this is where his motivation comes from to get revenge on Eddie Brock. If you're familiar with the Venom comics, this will not really come as a surprise to you. I myself am not familiar, but I read it up, and it seemingly is very, very close to one of the origins that we have seen in the comics. So while Eddie Brock is visiting Cletus Cassidy on the day of his execution, they get too close to each other. Cletus bites Eddie on the hand, and through just this small wound, he is able to get some of the Venom symbiote into his bloodstream, which then transform into Carnage, the namesake of this film. It's the big red symbiote that you've probably seen in trailers and comics, and who knows where else. Through these newfound powers, he breaks out, and as you can imagine, with the revenge still very, very much on his mind, that is where the story comes from between these two. At the same time, Eddie is having a lot of trouble with Venom, as I described before, you know, maintaining this relationship. And so they spend some time apart from each other as well in this film. That's as much as I'll tell you story-wise. So returning to how the film was made, Andy Serkis is the director of this film. I was very surprised to see that he was interested in this kind of thing. But I get that it made a lot of sense for Sony, because he obviously has, from pretty much the get-go, been very much involved with CGI filmmaking. Obviously as Gollum, I've been a big fan of his since Gollum, and I've watched a lot of things that he has done since then. And I get that they really wanted him for this film, and he does seem like a very good fit. So I really enjoyed just how the film itself was shot. I was really surprised, actually. I didn't suspect such a well shot film. But it was really wonderful following along these CG characters. So he obviously always really had in his mind what he wants to see, what he wants to show, and what we want to see as an audience of these figures. But it's not only that. At the start of the film, I'll be honest, I was a bit afraid, because there were a lot of, in the opening, we have a lot of fade-ins, fade-outs, and all these really, really high-focused shots just of one person. I thought for a time there, you know, I thought hopefully he's not going to be too Zack Snyder-esque about it. But it turns out that these shots were simply just for the opening. It was to set up some of the characters that we've got in this film, giving them a really wonderful just debut, you could call it. Really lovely close-ups. I really enjoyed them a lot, particularly because it was just confined to that. Like I say, it was not used in the rest of the film. I think that worked really well, just to really get us focused on this little group of people that we are going to be dealing with over the next hour and a half. I'm very excited to see what he's going to do in the future, actually. I believe he is going to do at least one more Venom, but even beyond that, because like I say, it was just a joy to watch the camera follow along. I was paying particular attention to that, and I really enjoyed it. Now, the story itself is very interesting, because Kelly Marcel, who also wrote the first one, returned for this one, but the story itself was developed not just by her, but by Tom Hardy as well. And I find that really interesting, and I really like that, actually, because I think that it's great that Tom Hardy is so invested in the Venom character that he even wants to really shape the story as it goes. It's interesting to see that he just cares so much about Venom. He also has a producer credit, so he was really heavily involved in this film. And, well, just as far as he goes, he is, like in the first one, very, very likeable. I think it's interesting because I'm not used to seeing him in sort of goofy, ordinary man roles, I'll call it. But he plays, this is probably one of the goofiest characters I've seen him play to date. I think he really enjoys that, because it's not the deeply dramatic acting, it's just a lot of fun, and I really get that. Now, I remember back then when the first one came out, people were complaining about his accent not always holding up. I myself couldn't hear it. There was one scene here where it was very, very obvious to me. I was like, wait a second, that just 2 or 3 words were just really from his English native accent. And I thought, what's going on here? That was a bit strange. But apart from that, you can see he's he's having a lot of fun with this role. And yeah, I just enjoy him and Venom interacting. Now, Woody Harrelson as the antagonist, as Cletus Cassidy and Carnage, he is very interesting because he is almost goofy, so I like that they've given him really this comic villainy style. So he likes to be funny, he likes to make jokes, he's sort of in that way, seeming very clever, etc. But not too much. So it's not over the top, it's just right, I feel, for the tone of the film, because Venom, it doesn't really try to be a super serious film, nor does it try to be just a ridiculous one or just focused on jokes like maybe some of the Marvel films. It is trying, I feel it treads this thin line very well between just being as entertaining as possible while not going too far into one or the other direction. And Woody Harrelson, I actually thought he fit this a lot better than I expected, so I am glad that it wasn't too comical. So he did have his moments where you could see that this guy really is a deranged serial killer, but he also has other moments where you can see that there are things in this world he cares about. And one of those things is Naome Harris. She plays a character called Shriek in this, so she is pretty much the only person that Cletus Cassidy has had in his life, throughout his life. And it was very interesting to me because I had just recently seen her in James Bond, No Time to Die. I don't know how this works, but I don't know if this happens a lot to you. If it does, let me know in the comments below if you've had an experience like this. But when you see an actor or actress, you very, very soon, shortly after, see them in something else. So she plays Moneypenny in No Time to Die, and she plays a character here in Venom called Shriek. And it was like, you know, you don't see them for maybe 1 or 2 years, and then all of a sudden you see them multiple times. Very strange. I liked her portrayal. Like I say, she is one of these anchors that Cletus Cassidy has in this film, and I feel she did that very well, although her character was a bit one-dimensional, so she didn't have too much beyond that. I feel they could have given her maybe a bit more, just a bit more, but she does also have her moments, I will say that. So overall, you have an enjoyable cast, and my main point that I would really like to bring across is if you weren't too sure about the first one, you maybe thought it dragged on a bit too much or was a bit too predictable, boring, etc. I'd say give this one a try, because I do feel overall it is a better film and also better crafted. We do have action in it and fight scenes as well, of course. I feel they are very well choreographed, and particularly, again, I'd like to point to just the camera work during them, because I think that when you consider these symbiotes and their limbs are flying all over the place, it's quite easy to get really confused, but I think that they did a great job here, and it's very, very easy to just follow the fights and what's going on. And the story, like I say, they stuck to just what they felt was important. That's why it's a short film, but I am definitely of the opinion it's the better choice that they made, and it seems that it's paid off for them. They've already made quite a lot of money. I am actually still shocked to this day just how much money the first Venom made. I can't quite understand that, although I liked it. But it looks like this one is going to be, well, not quite as successful, of course, due to the pandemic, but it will be successful enough that they will surely continue this on. I feel that they've got a good formula here, and I'd be very interested to see what happens if they continue. I don't see this as Sony just, you know, just a cash grab for them, just trying to make money. I do think, particularly with Tom Hardy attached in the way he is, that it really is about the character and really trying to create something unique, because I do feel that they are sort of carving out their own niche at this point. So those are my thoughts on Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Have you seen the film? Did you see the first one? What's the comparison like? You know, what did you think of this one? Any and all that, let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It's the best way to support this channel. I would appreciate it very much. And I will see you in the next video on Flying Wiener. Take care.